Hello there! Today I am going to work on 3 prompts from Create This Book 3 by Mariah Elizabeth. These 3 prompts I wasn't particularly inspired by, but I'm going to make them anyway because they're the ones that are up chronologically in my book, and I am committed to working in my booking order. Now that we're up to date on why I'm doing these pages, the first page has a prompt that reads, create an emoji. What's an emoji you wish existed? I don't know. But I do know my favorite emojis are the classic yellow face ones. So I started there by grabbing this piece of yellow cardstock I had left over. I thought I'd draw all of my favorite emojis first and then I'll come up with one of my own. So I drew and cut a lot of wobbly yellow circles, which I then just pasted onto my book. Once all of the circles were in, well, except for this one, because I'm going to use it for the emoji I create. Once they were in, I grabbed my son's phone to see the emojis as reference. Fun fact, the reason my son's phone is next to me, it's because for the entire week here in Ecuador, we went back to virtual school. Imagine that! Yay! Oh my god. So even though he has his own desk, my son has decided to work side by side with me for the whole week, doing everything together, and this is the reason why the house has been so noisy that I haven't been able to do or record an intro for this video. So you have me at night here in my closet recording. And if you're new here, hi, I'm Paula. I do a lot of creative things like going through Mariah Elizabeth's Create This Book 3 and other stuff. So if you like seeing ideas, creative ideas develop, please subscribe. Back to the emojis, and although I'm using a reference, I'm not doing them exactly as they are. To begin with, I'm using a black pen instead of using brown for outline like the originals have. I just wanted to make the page fun by having a lot of emojis and using some of my favorites, and having my new one fit in with the traditional ones. So far we have the meh face, the blushing smiley face. Of course I had to have the kiss emoji. I don't use this guy with the shade so much, but I thought he's cool, so he deserved the spot. And I have also been using this emoji a lot these days as news of school by Zoom developed and continue to extend. I also did the teared up with emotion emoji. I think that one is so sweet. The feeling love emoji, since I use that one so much, especially when I get nice comments or encouraging words from you. This is how I feel. Truly so nice. And then I had to have the crying your eyes out laughing and the disappointed one. And finally, this little fun crazy wink face, which I really like to use to justify when I say weird things. That was it for my lineup of existing emojis, and it was time to create my own. At this point I had come up with an idea and I decided to create the side-eye emoji. I get a lot of side-eye from my cringe teen. But my favorite times are when we are together and we give a coordinated side-eye without planning it. Anyhow, I drew my face with a straight line for the mouth and neutral eyes, which I cut out off screen because I had to get really close to do so. I also cut this piece of white paper to put behind the face. Pretty straightforward. I'm just gonna draw the eyes in the paper and then check if when I move the paper they look like they're looking to the side. I finished drawing the eyes, I colored them with marker, and then I just taped the white paper to the back, as I added a couple of double-sided tape strips to keep the paper from moving anywhere but where I wanted to. Once everything was in place, I cut the excess tape and paper from the sides, and with the same double-sided tape I pasted my face onto my book. Tried it out to see if it works, and yeah, it works perfectly. I actually love the result for that one. It was a fun little project I was able to do with my kid in school next to me. So, on to the next page. Next, create a survival kit. Draw items that you need to survive alone. Okay, I think most of us have a better idea of what we really need after 2020, right? So that part wasn't as hard to figure out. It took me a while though to come up with an idea on how to represent my survival box. But I finally decided to base it on 2 greeting card ideas I saw on Pinterest. For the first card, I started by cutting these 5 rectangles with different sizes. Once you have the rectangles, you're supposed to glue them this way. But before gluing them, I had to fold them all in half to make squares, and I had to erase some of the pencil guidelines I used to draw them. I glued them in the same way I just showed you, and when I had them all together, I drew little sketches on each one of what I needed. This took an unbelievably long time for me to color, and I think it was because I'm really trying to improve my coloring skills by being more attentive to it and using more layers patiently. Oh, and also by sharpening my pencils a lot. So, I'm going to take you through all the things and why I chose them as I color. I started with the sun. I know sunlight is a pretty standard thing to need, but I feel I needed more. I need to stand directly under the sun to recharge. I also know I do better in warmer climates, and I definitely need bright sunny days to keep my spirits up. Another thing I've come to realize I really need in my life to keep myself happy is nature. I take a nature walk at least once a week, and it really helps with everything. I appreciate having a little patio in my house and being able to hear birds or see foliage every day. Next thing is water, and I know everybody's gonna be like, that's so basic, but listen, this is how boring I am. Water is my absolutely favorite drink. For real, it's my go-to. I also really like pools or sinking into the ocean if it's not cold, so water is one of those things for me. Then music. I can't live without music. It changes my mood and brightens up my day. I have to have music. Okay, and this one is something I have actually tried to survive with. I did it once for a year, but I just can't even consider doing that again. It was the hardest year in my life. Not really, not even close, but I wanted to show you how addicted I am to chocolate. I am hooked to it, and my favorite is 60% dark chocolate. Next to chocolate, it's a big contrast. The other thing I know I really need is fresh fruits and vegetables. Like daily. I can't live on processed foods at all. I need fruit every single day of my life. Then, of course, this one you've probably guessed I would have on my list. I need some type of art supply. And for this list, I'm asking for the bare minimum, some paper and a pencil. Anything I can create and play with. I was watching this video the other day with Mr. Beast being in solitary confinement for 7 days. He had this all white room that was driving him crazy. He was so bored, and I was almost screaming at the screen. Draw on the walls! You have a pen. Draw on all of those squares. Even doodles will help keep you sane. Anyhow, for me, it's a must. Another thing that has become a part of my daily life and I feel I really need is a journal. My journal practice is one of those things that I consider saved my life after going through some really hard personal times. So I'm grateful and I cherish it. And last but not least, my pets. Now, the prompt says alone. So I'm doing stuffed versions of my little dogs just in case. I know if I would have to be alone, I would totally just go the Tom Hanks route and, be besties with Wilson. So it's either stuffed animals or a rock on which I would paint eyes on, or a pet heart, or befriend a wild creature. That's why I drew a little birdie too. I need someone to talk to and feel a little bit of company. Okay, so now I had all of the items that go into my survival kit, and they're in this card. They have been drawn and colored. It's time to figure out a way to put them in the book. For this, I am going to create another card design that I found on Pinterest using an extra piece of paper, which I cut out into this cross pattern. It was supposed to be all squares of 8 by 8 centimeters, but I couldn't fit that in my page, so I made the size shorter, which I knew was going to be okay because I know I only needed part of the sides to make this kind of envelope work. Anyhow, you'll see. So I marked the sides to be half of 8, so 4 centimeters, and then on one of the sides I drew half a heart. After I cut that half heart, I used the leftover piece as a mold to cut the other side in the same size so they would match. I drew that side, cut it, and I had my card that I'm using to represent my box. I also needed to mark the top and bottom to cut some slits through which the heart will fit to keep it all closed. First, I needed to fix the X-Acto knife. I don't even know why it came apart. And then I cut the slits. I erased all of the guidelines and I was ready. All I had to do was color the heart, which I'm using instead of a red cross, and fold the paper. I wasn't patient and I didn't wait for the marker to dry properly, so I stained my page while folding it. Ugh. So I waited for a little while for it to dry, which I did, and then folded the other sides. And apparently, I didn't wait long enough because I'm too impatient and it's still not dry. So I just carried on being extra careful. Once everything was folded, I glued my survival kit items in the middle and proceeded to close my box. The slit on the bottom side of the card was too short, so I extended it, tried it again, and the envelope closed perfectly, and for some reason the other side just worked without me needing to make the slit longer. Now it's time to put it inside my book. I just placed it on there and the page seemed a little plain, so I brought out my red paint marker again and drew a bunch of crosses and hearts as a background. The paint marker did bleed through a little, but nothing too bad, so I just decided to carry on to the last prompt of the day, which was the one I was dreading the most, to be honest. It's never occurred to me to draw a comic. I don't think I ever even did it when I was a kid, but okay. For this, I brought in an extra piece of paper again, and I thought I would do a comic about my dogs since the prompt said to do it based on a part of my day. I spend a lot of time with my doggies every day, so I thought it was appropriate. The first thing I did was to sketch a comic book cover with my two dogs on it, trying to make it as close to a comic book as I could with the number, title, dynamic lines, and I also left the space to cut out for the prompt to show. I then erased my pencil lines to make them lighter and I proceeded to color my design. And I'm gonna make you a little montage of my process because this took me a while to color. Here we go. When I was done coloring my page, I protected it with shipping tape before pasting it to the book. I like the little window on the cover for the prompt to look like it's a part of the book. I even colored it to make it look better. And now I'm going to save you from watching a second coloring montage by showing you the second drawing I created for the comic prompt. It's a full spread of a bed. I covered it with tape too and glued it onto my book poorly. But before doing that, I cut out this part of the bed to act as a flap to rebuild this blank space. There's an ongoing joke in my family because my dogs are super lazy and sleep in a lot for being young dogs. So I drew them in there so when you flip the covers of the bed down, you can find them in there still sleeping. And to prove this, here's footage of one of my little dogs and I'm trying to wake her up on Saturday at almost 10 a.m. and I'm offering to take her outside and treats, but she did not want to wake up. With that, this is the end of the episode and we can look back at everything I made. Here's my side emoji. I love that he is side-eyeing someone and then he hears you say something and boom, you get the side eye. Then, of course, I have my survival kit, and it's a little card that you open and has everything I think I really, really need in my life. And last but not least, the comic page, featuring my two beautiful pets. And yeah, next episode, we're going to create a screenshot, another prompt I'm not crazy about, and a menu. So we'll see how that goes next week. I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye.